You still reach for a notebook, not an app, not a shared folder, a notebook. And if you've ever tried to explain that to someone who doesn't, you already know how it lands. They nod, they move on. Somewhere in that moment, you probably wondered if the preference was just habit. It isn't. Neuroscience has spent years catching up to what your brain already figured out, and what it found isn't nostalgic, it's structural. Digital tools are faster. They sync across devices, they search and autocomplete, and remind you of things you forgot you'd even scheduled. For most people, the move to screens made sense, and they never look back. For shallow work logistics, retrieval things you need and discard, they're genuinely better. That's not the argument. The argument starts when the work you're doing isn't retrieval, it's thinking. And thinking is where something different begins to happen. They call it inefficient, slow. You could type 3 times as much in the same window, and the speed gap is real typing is faster. That part isn't wrong. But Muller and Oppenheimer, in a study published in Psychological Science in 2014, found that speed is exactly the problem. They split students into 2 groups, laptops and notebooks, same lecture, same material. The laptop users took far more notes. When tested on surface-level recall, both groups performed comparably. But on conceptual understanding synthesis application, the kind of thinking that requires more than memory, the notebook users outperformed consistently, because you can't write everything. So your brain pre-processes, it selects, it compresses. What reaches the page was already decided by something working faster than your hand. That selection process isn't a limitation of handwriting. It's the mechanism. You're not recording the lecture, you're already thinking about it. Here's something that sounds simple until you hold it. You remember where things were written down, not just what where. Upper left corner, the page you folded over, the one that got coffee on it 3 Tuesdays ago. That physical location is stored in your memory alongside the content itself. Ask yourself, can you navigate a notebook you've been using for 6 months? Now ask the same question about a notes app from the same period. Audrey van der Meer, at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, ran EEG scans on students while they wrote and typed. Handwriting activated significantly more brain regions, including the areas responsible for spatial memory and motor learning. Physical pages exist in space. Your brain maps them like rooms. You don't search them, you navigate them. Digital notes are flat, infinite, and unsorted by anything except what you manually organized. They don't exist anywhere. They wait to be queried. There's a difference between a place and a search result. Your memory knows which one it can actually find. Then there's what happens under constraint. You can't write fast enough. Half the meeting is gone before you've finished the first sentence. That constraint is real, and it forces something nobody talks about. He was the only one in the room with a notebook. His manager noticed day 1, going old school. He didn't answer. 3 weeks later, the team was arguing about what was actually decided in a key planning session. Everyone had notes. Nobody agreed on the same thing. He opened his notebook and read back 4 lines, the decision, who said it, what came next. No ambiguity. The room went quiet. Someone asked how he remembered. He just said, I had to choose what to write down. That choice is the mechanism. When you write by hand, you process at the speed of decision, not the speed of input. What lands on the page was pre-selected by your brain as worth keeping. That's not inefficiency. That's cognitive compression. Most people record everything and remember nothing. You write less and retain more. But here's something I want you to sit with. Is your preference for paper a genuine cognitive advantage? Or is it partly because the blank cursor, the open document, the digital speed demands an exposure you haven't learned to sit with? Comfort with analog tools can be a wiring preference, or it can be a way of slowing down to avoid the pressure of performing in real time. Both are real. Only you know which one is actually running the show. And then there's what paper doesn't do. It doesn't do anything your screen can't. It's just a surface. It's not the surface, it's what the surface refuses to do. Bowman and colleagues in the Journal of Experimental Psychology measured the real cost of digital interruptions, not the 30 seconds you spend on the notification, the 23 minutes on average to return to the cognitive depth you held before it arrived. Per interruption, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain handling complex layered thinking, spends a significant portion of its capacity in a digital environment just monitoring, watching, waiting for the next signal. Paper removes that requirement entirely, not because it's quieter, because paper has nothing to say. The last thing sounds like preference. It's actually mechanics. Think of something you typed last week. Now think of something you wrote by hand a month ago. The handwritten thing probably comes back with more texture, not just what it said, but something about the act of writing it. Virginia Berninger at the University of Washington found that handwriting activates motor sensory and cognitive networks simultaneously in ways typing simply doesn't replicate. The friction of the pen, the pressure of your hand against the page, the small resistance in every stroke. These aren't inconveniences to be engineered around their inputs. Your brain uses sensory feedback to build memory that sticks. Typing removes that feedback entirely. It's engineered for frictionless input, which for memory is the same as engineered for frictionless forgetting. The things you carry longest are always the things that cost something to put down. If you're a man, pulling out a notebook in a room full of open laptops gets noticed. Not loudly, just noticed. You've been called old school, analog, a little behind, and you've let it go not because you're stubborn, but because the notebook keeps working when the systems break down. There's something specific that happens when you're the only person in a meeting who doesn't need to search for what was said. Your calm doesn't perform, it just works. Other people find that unsettling in ways they don't have the language for. Follow for more on the psychology of quiet intensity. I was in a meeting once, one notebook, 12 laptops. I wrote 4 lines. 3 days later, I was the only one in the room who didn't need to pull up the recording. The brain remembers what the hand touched. Everything else it just processed. Which one hit hardest? The encoding, the spatial memory, or the distraction cost? Drop it in the comments. And if you know someone still defending the notebook, in an all-digital world, send this to them. Sometimes science just puts a name to what you already knew.